Thank you. Hi, I'm Heather Gross-Hannon. I am the library director here on the UVA College at Wise campus. And I am very grateful to Ashley, who is the UVA Charlottesville um, librarian to the education department to do today's presentation. But I am shadowing her on this so that I can support you locally in the content that she is sharing and also in your overall class assignment. So thank you for allowing me to be a part of your class today, and I look forward to supporting you. And Ashley, I turn it over to you.
Fabulous. So excited to meet you all here today virtually and in person. So today's workshop session, we are going to cover a combination of library literature searching and then how to cite that formally in APA 7th edition style, everybody's favorite, I know, citations, but we're going to make it a lot easier for you all with some really great resources and some basic tips and kind of reframing how we think about citing. So like Heather mentioned, I'm Ashley Hosbach-Wallman. I'm the education librarian for the UVA Charlottesville campus, as well as doing distance education support for the UVA libraries across the nation and globally. So working in a hybrid and online environment is not new to me at all, and I love getting to meet everybody from all around the country. So super excited to meet you all. Heather Groves-Hannon and Angie West are also serving in a sub-liaising capacity for your program. So I just wanted to familiarize you all with their contact information and their faces because they are wonderful sources of support for this program as well, despite me being the one teaching this session for you here today. So we across UVA libraries and the UVA College at Wise say that the UVA library supports all of our students. So whether you are online, hybrid, or in person, you have the right to equal library access and research support. And this is something that I think students don't tend to think about as much as we're going through the programs and all the resources that colleges and universities provide us. But the library is such a great resource for you to use, again, whether you're in person, hybrid, or online. Your tuition is paying for that support, and you will never again in your lifetime have access to this much information again. It's such a privilege to have access to these databases, these research articles, these research books and materials. It is really something awesome that we want to share with you guys and make sure everybody knows that the library is for you. These resources are for you, and we will work to make sure that access experience is equal across all modalities. So during this session, I can guarantee questions are going to come up. So feel free, kind of wave, have the owl kind of signal at me and shift over to you guys if you want to just kind of stop, say, hey, slow down the pace a little bit, or hey, I have a question about this before we move on. Feel free to do so, because chances are if you're thinking it, other people are going to be thinking it too. Also, for those of us who are joining us online, feel free to enter your questions into the chat box. So ask away, everybody. It's not formal by any means. So please just let me know. Your main point of contact for this program for library support will be the graduate at uvawise.edu email, as well as one-to-one appointments with librarians can be scheduled online. So we're all trained in certain subject specialties to support you with this education research. Teacher educators, folks returning back to an education environment after a while. We really, really want to get to know and meet you guys. So please feel free to reach out via that email, or again, reach out to us to schedule one-to-one consultations. We can meet with you in person, or we can meet with you over Zoom, and we do this all the time. So more than happy to have more in-depth consultations for your papers. I like to kind of call it like a free tutoring service, right? Again, it's built into your tuition. So please take advantage of the folks who are here to support you. We really want to help make this process a lot easier for you. So the question then that will come up with students is, well, what exactly is a liaison librarian, or what do you mean that there's a librarian assigned to my program? And I like to say, there's a lot of pop culture imagery out there about librarians, right? And usually you're kind of thinking of someone who's a little more quiet, maybe just kind of stationary at the desk, wrapped up in their cardigan, doesn't want to be bothered. I will say I do appreciate a really good cardigan. It gets cold in the libraries. We're not introverts. We're very much extroverts. We want you to reach out, meet with us in the library, have conversations with us. You'll see Heather and Angie, I'm sure, have programming throughout the year with both outreach events, more academic events. We really want you guys signing up and participating in those workshops and going into the library and visiting with us. We are people first, both book and people, but again, we really like working with folks, so please come in and stop to talk with us. So for the library environment for education students, to be entirely honest with you guys, most of the materials that we buy for you tend to be online anyway. It's just an online environment, right? In today's day and age, most of the journals are available online. A lot of our books that we purchase for education, and particularly K through 12 or higher ed environments, those tend to be ebooks versus print books, although we do have a print collection for you all to use too. But just keep in mind that the library is meant to go with you. So whether you're physically located with us in the classroom or on campus, tapping in online from anywhere across the globe, that library experience kind of rests in your laptop and in your desktop computer. So we built that online library support for you. So what is the online library exactly? When we refer to the online library, we're talking about the online catalog here for the UVA College at Wise, as well as research databases that are shared across the college at Wise and UVA Library Charlottesville. So this includes a really robust amount of research articles and books and content that you can use. We designed the library to support an online experience many years ago, even before COVID even happened. So we can rest assured that that content, again, will meet you where you are, no matter what modality you choose to pursue for this program. So we have designed what we call library dashboards designed to support our education programs. So I'm going to take you to the one that we have designed here for WISE. Just to familiarize you guys, I am going to enter this into the chat box. And if this isn't embedded already in your course, we will make sure that that is set up by the end roughly in this time. Heather, I might talk with you about that if that's not set up already, but you can always access this dashboard at this link. So for those who are watching this recording, we'll make sure that link gets to you. And for those in the classroom, we will also make sure this link then is posted either via email or on the Canvas course for you. So these library dashboards are meant to simplify both your literature search and your citing experience. So this includes on the left-hand side in that column, direct access to the librarians who support your program. Again, very happy to meet with you all on those contact points, as well as on the right-hand side of the column, what's of most importance to you all for assignments. There are going to be the top databases for academic articles for your papers, as well as support for all of the everything APA. So reference examples, the APA style blog, sample papers. We'll have all of those posted on here to view, which is a really valuable resource for you guys. We're going to do a deeper dive into APA examples a little bit later in the session, but I just wanted to let you guys know that this is here available as that second box, and we strongly recommend clicking through and referencing that content. We used to suggest to folks to look at the Purdue OWL. That now maybe I would say is a little outdated. It tends to get bogged down with a lot of ads. So the web traffic is very slow. The APA blog is not like that. It's very streamlined, very smooth, easy to search. So I highly recommend checking that out here on this dashboard that we provided for you all. So the popular question then that comes up with all of my students will be to ask, what are the best databases for education research? So I'm going to talk about some pros and cons of the content that's available and familiarize you all with that. So the biggest question that folks will ask then is, give me one database to search. Just tell me one. Is there one database to rule all of my searches? Please just give me that database. I want to be in and out as quick as possible. And the real answer to that then is that there is no one database. Unfortunately, we want to have a strategy of searching at least 2 to 3, in some cases 3 to 4 databases to make sure we're getting at the best amount of research articles available. So kind of break this down, then I'm a big Office fan. I always have to include some Office gifts in my presentations. So let's break it down. So how many of you guys subscribe to one of these platforms on here with a show of hands or some movement? See, okay, see some hands. How many of you guys subscribe to multiple? So a couple of these as well. Yep, seeing some more hands up. Yes. So let's think about academic databases and vendors similar to the major streaming companies. So you wouldn't subscribe to Netflix only and say, I now have access to every video and movie and TV show that is out there, right? These companies are fighting for access to TV show contracts, movie contracts, and that rotates and switches. So just like you wouldn't subscribe to one streaming platform, You also wouldn't only search one academic database. So the databases do the same thing. They're fighting over access to academic journal contracts. Certain academic articles and academic journals will appear on one platform versus the other. And that's important to keep in mind. So a multi-database search strategy is the best for literature review for you. So let's hop in before we start getting into the nitty gritty of citing sources. I'm going to hop back in here to our library dashboard and show some search examples where we can find some citations nested in the database as well, and just kind of record formatting and how we work with that then for our assignments. So I'm going to chat again in the chat box to you all. And again, we'll send notes to you guys as well too. The major research databases for education, first and foremost, we're going to talk about ERIC. So that is number 3 listed on here. So ERIC is what we call the gold standard for education research. If your research is funded through, oh, what is the link? Yes, here I'm going to rechat that again. Thank you, Andy. I'm going to rechat that for you guys. So that's a little bit of a long string. I'm not going to announce all the letters to spare you guys from me reading out the chain on that search chain. But we'll also email you guys that to have access as well. Oh, do I see a hand or a thumbs up? Maybe.
Thumbs up. Thumbs
all right,
up.
thumbs up. Awesome, awesome. So with this here, if you do a major study through the government, it is required for that study to be uploaded into ERIC. And so those big education studies, the foundational studies and education research, they tend to be uploaded to this platform first, which is why we always say definitely run some searches on ERIC to see what's out there. That tends to be a lot of highly cited research. There is a free version of ERIC online. So if the average person was to just Google ERIC online, you would see a free version. What we have linked into you here is the paid version. So that is what UVA is paying for you to access. So it means that all the PDF content for the most part is uploaded in there. So the average person, if you Googled ERIC, again, they're not paying tuition, so they're not getting access to all those PDFs, unfortunately. So some are available for free, some are not. We want to make sure that when you are doing your assignments for this course, that you are logging in to the paid for version of ERIC. So you all, I'm just going to click in here. It's going to look different on my screen momentarily, but I'm just going to show you. When you click into ERIC, it's going to trigger your UVA WISE login. So this would require you then to just log in through those UVA WISE credentials. Since I am technically not affiliated with UVA WISE, I'm going to log into the UVA Charlottesville portal and guide us from there. But it will look the same once I have passed that UVA Charlottesville entrance point. So let me click into ERIC here to show you guys. So this may look a little small on the screen, but again, we'll have this available as a recording for you all. You can meet one-to-one with us at any point in time to go over this as well, but we're going to give you kind of a quick and dirty librarian version to finding those sources here in this database. So at first glance, it looks very 90s and early 2000s looking when you get into the database and we kind of go, ooh, I don't know if I want to search in this one. I'd rather go pop in and out of Google. It looks way more user-friendly. But if you take a little time to get used to the interface, we're going to notice here that this is a powerhouse for education research searching. So this is designed by educators for educators. So that means if we take just the extra 1 to 2 minutes to scroll down past that first part of the search interface, we can see we now have a lot of search filters or options. So similarly to as if you were searching on a shoe store website, for example, and you only wanted to look at boots, you would probably go down to the drop-down menu to select boots or high heels, for example. So this works the same way in databases. We want to apply filters, so we're not getting 50 million results just thrown at us. So for us, when we're focusing particularly for practitioner-centered information for teachers, we're looking usually at an education level, right? So are we talking about elementary students? Are we talking about early childhood education? Are we talking about high school or intermediate school? So we have the ability right from the get-go to filter that to education level to select even down to the grade level, although I would not narrow it down as narrow as the grade level yet, but I would do umbrella terms like intermediate, junior, high school, post-secondary, elementary, depending on what education level you are focusing on. So that is a really great feature, again, to scroll down a little bit more. We also have the ability to filter by intended audience. So this could be, are we looking at articles geared more towards community members, parents, counseling staff in our K through 12 environments, administrators, policymakers? We have the ability to filter that information as well. The other bit that we can filter by is something called publication type. So I'm going to highlight that a little bit here too. And that can be maybe if we're looking for more numerical information, what we call quantitative information or quantitative articles. We do have the ability to go, if we scroll on down, that's the more popular one. If we do numerical and quantitative data, that can help us filter down to that, as well as many other subtypings. But that tends to be the most popular one that people ask about when they just say, give me some more data. You can select that as an option here as well. So as a librarian, I also feel the same as you. I'm only a couple of years out of graduate school. I understand the paper crunch and you want to get in and out as quickly as possible and try to weed through the fluff. So sometimes we get those fluffy search results. We're entering our search terms in. We thought, I came up with some pretty great keywords. Why is it still returning thousands of articles? And that can be purely based off of the default settings that your database is set to. So if we notice here on the right-hand side, I'm going to click here, you see multiple search boxes. So this is going to land us on an advanced search function. So we want to have a couple keywords we're throwing around here to do some searches. There is the option to go from select a field to what we call A/B abstract searching. So I'm going to chat that to you guys. Move from default, go from select a field to A/B abstract. And that abstract, again, is that tiny paragraph at the beginning of an article that tells us what are the main points of this article? What is the study really set up for? And I like to run my keyword searches in the abstract because chances are my keywords are not in the paragraph that is supposed to describe the article, then I am probably wasting my time going through and giving that a click. So switching to the abstract can be a great way to weed out the fluff immediately. So when I talk about generating keywords, I want you guys to think that this is part of this whole paper writing and assignment process from keyword generation to the citation at the end as we're wrapping up. So with keyword generation, particularly in education, this is where it can get tricky because as we know, so a lot of us either planning on being future teachers, we're already teachers in the classroom, right? A lot of us are working at the same time. So we know that education terminology, education policy can get outdated very, very quickly. And I always like to give English language learning classes as an example. So over the years, this has been referred to as ELL, ESOL, ESL. There's a new terminology I just learned from one of my students the other day. It can also depend on the district that you're in, right? So we want to make sure that we're doing synonym generation. So we can see this here. This will auto-populate in the database. In most cases, I'm going to let it auto-populate to suggest the synonyms to me. I'll also add them in here too as well. So it just is really, really helpful when we think about that. How are we referring to these populations in the classroom? How have we seen them referred to in our readings? What date were our course readings from? And maybe that terminology has changed over the years. It's just good to keep in mind. There can be other variations of referring to certain populations too, or certain EDI, what we call equity, diversity, and inclusion initiatives. Those have shifted dramatically over the past 5 years. So think again, modern context, as well as just maybe researchers in different areas may spell things differently or may refer to them as different names. So when I run those searches in, usually I am using 3 of the boxes. You can actually, before I type in the next box for you guys, you can actually add as many boxes to your heart's content if you are a visual person. Sometimes I'm feeling more visually inclined than others. But for example, if we were focusing then on improving literacy, reading skills, etc., or reading performance, and then let's see that assessment piece, right? So we could use assessment, evaluation, screening, tests. I'm going to run that in the abstract as well, just to show you guys. So because I've generated synonyms, added on a relatively longer search chain, because we're not just starting out with 1 or 2 words, right? We want to have at least a couple, generate some lists in advance. This gives me search results of about 185. Usually what I'm looking for with my search results is 100 or less, roughly. This way it gives you a couple pages to click through to see if this is in fact related to your topic, and you determine, am I heading down the right path, or do I want to back up a little bit, make it more broad, or make it more narrow? For you guys, for education research in particular, when you're pulling this content, you want research that is from 3 to 5 years out. or a maximum of 5 to 7 years out, unless you are doing a historical overview. As I mentioned about those synonyms and those terms changing really quickly and policy changing very quickly, it's the same with education research. And usually if we go beyond that 5 to 7 year timeline, that's when the research can get a little bit outdated unless it is a foundational article. So try to go within that 3 to 5 year or sooner timeline if you can, and push that back to 5 to 7, again, 7 to 10 if you absolutely have to, but think about pulling in more recent literature. You can do that very easily with the timeline toggle on the left-hand side here. So we just can add that in, say 2015, 2018, and onwards, and that will then generate us a significantly smaller result list here. When I click into records here in the library system, there will be on the right-hand side the options then to cite. This is not accurate all the time, so we're going to go over again more APA specifics in a couple of minutes, but the cite button sometimes is good at generating. It'll generate different styles for you. We notice our favorite here, APA 7th edition, but it is not always accurate. So always double check with your APA manual and the APA blog before generating automatic citations. Just be very, very, very careful with that as we go through.
Ashley, could I jump in for just 1 second?
Yes, please do.
All right, so whenever you just did that and clicked on the right,
Yes.
our Zoom bar was covering up.
Oh no.
So I was going to get you to do it one more time.
Yep.
And I've moved the Zoom bar over so it's not blocking our
Perfect.
view.
I'm going to close it, everybody, and we're going to go back in. Okay. So if you see,
make it like a little bit bigger.
See, we can see on our big screen.
yeah, maybe on your end it might be able to. I'm not sure.
Let me see if I can do that. Yeah. Let's see here.
I'm not known for my quality of vision.
No. And,
No, it's very small. Yeah, it's not you.
I brought it up on my computer back there in the back, so I could see it as you were going through. But our view right here, it's super tight. But I've been able to follow you, so I don't see how I can make this bigger.
Yeah, I know on my end I can't magnify. Well, wait, hold on, let me see. Nope, the screen share.
Yeah. Well, that's okay, because as I mean, we're recording everything, and I'm looking at the screen of what we're recording, and I can most certainly read it here just fine. So I think it's on our big screen here. It's a bit tight, but you're fine. You're fine.
Okay. And we'll send instructions to you all too, so that way everybody can still follow along, rewatch the recording. We'll make sure everybody can follow, and you can email us with questions too. If for whatever reason anything was too small to see, you just let us know. We'll make sure that you're covered and all good. So it's going to be on that right hand. There is a tiny menu called Tools. Right hand side is always hanging on the right hand side of the record. If you count down a couple, you're going to see options to send a PDF to your Google Drive. If you're a Microsoft user, sending it to OneDrive. You can create folders in the system, print out and do your highlighting and text that way, email it to yourself. Or we have, again, looks like a little piece of paper, the Cite button. And if you click on the Cite button, it's going to generate a lot of citation styles that have been loaded into the system. And for us, we're looking at APA 7th edition. But again, it's only as accurate as the content that was uploaded in there. And sometimes with mass uploading, maybe it didn't upload exactly correctly. So we always encourage everybody to look at the APA manual that you guys have and double check on the APA blog to make sure that citation looks okay. So we're going to go over those sources momentarily. So this is just kind of a quick version of how to set up a search here in this database. I encourage you guys to use it. Again, it has really great content in here, and think again about generating the synonyms, generating keywords, running longer search chains than more than just 1 or 2 words, right? So we can narrow down on more quality articles located here. Before we go out too, we also have that nifty peer-reviewed button. So we can narrow it down to peer-reviewed content immediately as well in the database if that is something that your instructor specifies. So sometimes people are really gung-ho about making sure that it's peer-reviewed content. Other times, for a lot of our courses in education, it may be what we call district-wide reports that we use. Those are not what we would call peer-reviewed academic journals, but they're still so valuable for us as educators and teachers to go in. So not all of our sources that we may use for assignments and discussion and kind of news articles as well from top tier education news journals that we use as teachers, those often are not what we would call traditional peer-reviewed sources. It just entirely depends on your assignment. I always say default to your professor. So don't just say, oh, the librarian told me I can use anything. Default to what the professor designates for the assignment, but just know that you see a variety of source types here when we're working with education research. Very, very important. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to dedicate a couple more minutes to searching, and then we're going to switch gears and head over into our citation part of the workshop. So the other major database that you will see coming up is actually a major academic search engine, and that is called Google Scholar. So Google Scholar, upon first glance, we hop onto Google Scholar. It appears to look very similar to Google, and that may, in some cases, that may excite us, or in some cases, we may be a little bit wary and say, oh, I don't know, is this academic in nature or not? Rest assured, we can guarantee that this is, in fact, academic content. You just have to add the extra steps, perhaps, of looking up the journal name, maybe looking up the authors as well. Always double check, particularly for education research content, that it is quality academic content coming from Google Scholar. 90% of it is quality academic content. It's just the other 10% that may come in and sift through where you have to pause a little bit. And I like to say this to all of my education classes. The reason why I'm bringing this up is, as we know, for all of you who are currently teaching in the classroom or looking at this as making this into a full-time career and getting that licensure, it is very difficult to be an educator in today's day and age. And there are a lot of politics getting tossed around here, particularly at teachers. And we've seen some political groups posting data and reports to Google Scholar, where if you take a couple more clicks to look at the research center that it's affiliated with, or actually look up the authors, you may realize that it's a more politically slanted article than first glance. So just take the extra step when you're pulling content off of Google Scholar. Check the research affiliation to see if they are in fact affiliated with a university or not. You just may see that more in today's day and age with education research articles coming up. But say, for example, if I wanted to run a similar search, and I'm going to talk here, I was doing some searches with some students earlier today. Say if we were looking up articles on the school to prison pipeline, then in Title I schools. Let me specify Title I in there. So with Google Scholar, the PDF access is provided through UVA. So anyone could log onto Google Scholar, but they would not get that PDF access that we provide for you guys. So you're getting a more customized experience going in here. Google Scholar, as you can see, only has one filtering option, and that is by date range. So we don't have education level or community-based audience or study type like we do in the other databases. So keeping that in mind, that means you are going to get a lot more articles popping up. Doesn't mean that all the articles are going to be relevant to you, unfortunately, but it does mean that we get a wider pool. I like to compare this to fishing in the ocean. So if you're casting a really big net out into the ocean, you're going to catch some fish, but you're also going to probably pull in some trash as well. So keep that in mind to have a good refined search strategy, consult with your librarians, see how you're setting it up to make your life a little bit easier, because it's going to generate a lot of articles. With Google Scholar, they also have some citing capacity built in here. I would say Google Scholar's citing capacity is even more iffy than Eric's. I would not use that feature here. But we do have, again, easy access to click into articles. The feature that Google Scholar offers you guys is something called citation tracing. I'm going to type this in here, citation tracing. So citation tracing that Google Scholar offers is, say you have a really great article that you read or discussed in your class. Maybe you found an article online. You think this is perfect for my topic. This is perfect for my blog post. I want to find more sources like this. You can enter it into Google Scholar. And then when you find your title, hover down a little bit below. So you'll see the article title, a little bit of blurb about what the article is about. Then you're going to see a button that says cited by. So I'm going to put that cited by here. So cited by pulls all research that has cited that article in their bibliography. So this is a great way to see, okay, what research that is more current maybe has been built off of this article that I really liked, or maybe book chapter or book that you read in class. Really great option. You can even search within those citing articles, authors that feature here. And again, it's a higher chance of finding relevant articles related to your topic if you've found a few already. No other database offers this, so kudos to Google Scholar for having this really nice citation tracing feature. And that's what we do use a lot, and I do recommend using that. So many of my students will write to me and say, oh, I found the perfect article, but I can't find any others like it. Usually when we do some citation tracing, then we're able to generate more articles for them. So keep that in your back pocket. Again, particularly too, you know, the professors say, oh, this article I had you guys read, this book chapter that you had and read in class. Here's some way to pull more content even related to that author. If the author has a profile set up, so say, for example, I'm going to click on here. You can actually go in and then see all the articles that that author has created and has been tracked here on Google Scholar. So it does offer some neat, nifty features that the other databases do not. So again, just keeping in mind, similarly like to that streaming services metaphor, right? We want to use multiple databases. Google Scholar is one of those multiple databases that you want to use because it offers a different feature, a different interface, different articles, and different ways of doing tracing. So that's a quick, very, very quick in and out. You can meet more with us one-to-one, email us. We'll give you more search features, but I didn't want to take up the whole time today, but just a little bit to give you guys some search basics before we move into the citation piece here of our session. So I'm going to open, oh, yes.
Can I ask a question? So,
yes, fire away.
And maybe I'm just doing this wrong, but every time I use Google Scholar, I never end up with the whole journal article. Is that it seems like every one that I pick, it only gives me either the abstract or enough information that I need the rest of the article. So what I do sometimes is I use both because I know I can get the full article by going through our library services. But am I doing something wrong, or is that just typical in the way that it works?
So some of it will be set up that way, and that we don't own every article out there, and it will pop up. Maybe this is the abstract. It'll give you 1 to 2 paragraphs about it, and then you'll have to either A, try to access it through the library server because maybe it wasn't linked right, or B, we can use what we call interlibrary loan for you guys, and then we'll just buy article access for you that isn't there in cases when we're able to do that. For this, I think, but Heather, feel free to jump in and correct me if I'm wrong. I'll walk you guys syncing so we can sync Google Scholar to UVA. I want to say that it'll work for you guys too, because UVA library, like it's more as a package deal, but Heather, correct me if I'm wrong, if that isn't set up for you guys on the end. I have to manually go in and pull it up for mine and for my distance ed students. And I would think it would work the same for you guys, but maybe, yeah, okay, here. So I'm going to.
It works the same way. And the only other thing that I would recommend is trying the journal finder. So if you find something in Google Scholar, it may be in one of the other databases. So the journal finder would be the only other potential option. And then obviously, yes, interlibrary loan.
Yeah.
So I'm going to show you guys then how to sync it with UVA libraries as a brand as a whole. So this comes up where maybe if we have the cookies feature turned off in our browser, or we're kind of tapping in and off, whether we're physically located on campus or maybe accessing from home. Sometimes it kind of toggles it on and off. I always double check. There is a settings bar on Google Scholar. So left-hand column, there's a little settings icon. You click on settings, and I'm going to chat this to you guys too. So you go into Google Scholar settings, click what we call library links. So that's an option. It's very small. I'm sure you guys can't see it in the classroom. I'm sorry, but it's very small in the left-hand column. So we just click something called library links. And what you guys want to do, because it probably won't show up immediately under your search bar, look up University of Virginia libraries, and then that provides the access point that will sync PDF access when we have it. But again, we don't have PDF access for everything, and sometimes the linking isn't perfect. But that would link you into the main like UVA system and should then help pull that content for you. But again, it can happen. It happens many, many times where we just don't own it. And in that case, we absolutely will try our best to make sure we get access to that article for you. Really, really good question. Anybody else have questions too before we hop on to the second part?
I have a question real quick.
Oh, yes, fire away.
I think you might have answered it, but just now when you were explaining the syncing the library to it, is it
Mhm.
gonna automatically save that, or will you have to do that each session?
It will automatically save it until you clear your cookies or if the browser for some reason does some sort of system-wide restart. So in most cases, it's saved then for at least a couple months. You always want to double check. And so you'll be able to see if it's happening just based on, give me one minute pulling that up again for you guys. So if I did broadly just to pull something up. You can tell if it's working if you see PDFs linked in or find that UVA libraries linked in here on the side. If for whatever reason that's all entirely empty, that means it probably maybe needs to be resynced again, but it should save it for relatively long term for you.
Okay, thank you.
And Ashley, what's the link that we put in there?
Oh, so it just is going in on that little settings menu. And if you just click on the settings menu on the left-hand side, you just go to settings, library links, and then you just look up University of Virginia. And because mine's already connected, and you'll just want to click that checkbox then University of Virginia libraries. And then that should pop up and should work. But again, Heather, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't want to be giving you guys the wrong information, but I'm pretty sure that it works across our multiple campus locations. That should identify it then for you.
Okay, so that would also, that would do UVA, and then also that it automatically includes UVA WISE too by just doing University of Virginia.
I believe so, but Heather, correct me. I don't want to be giving misinformation out there if that's wrong. But I'm pretty it works across our Falls Church location too. So think WISE is in that, but stop me if I'm
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, thanks.
Of course. And let us know too, if for whatever reason, if the connection isn't established for some reason, then we can troubleshoot that sometimes happens. Particularly for our folks who are tuning in to watch this recording later. If you are accessing our content from your school issued laptop or trying to download UVA specific software from your school issued laptop, sometimes the school issued laptops have additional security settings on it where they don't allow external software or certain like cookies or linking in. So just be aware there are some cases maybe where you may not, if you are able to not use your school issued laptop from your employer, we would encourage you to either use another laptop or tablet setting in some cases. I just say this because some of my students tell me that their districts put locks on certain content. So just to be aware as educators coming in for the program. Any other questions too before we move on?
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
How do you make sure that those are peer-reviewed articles?
Great question. So with Google Scholar, they do not have a peer-reviewed filter. So what I recommend for those is look up the name of the journal, Google the journal then to make sure that looks like quality, scholarly peer-reviewed information. Look up the authors. So if the authors then are university affiliated and then taking the step to make sure the journal is what we call academic peer-reviewed content, that's always good just to do the extra step of actually looking up the people and looking up the journal name. Google Scholar just didn't add that as a feature. I couldn't tell you why, but they just did not want to add that as a filter. So that is a pro to using ERIC or other academic databases provided through the UVA College at WISE, because we know for sure we have a peer-reviewed filter option. Great question.
Actually, I've got one final question. So, and somebody told me something one time about our different databases between Eric and the other ones. Is that on general, what's the difference between them?
Yeah, absolutely. So let me I'm going to show you some examples here. I'm going to start that. And I'm going to access on a different portal than you guys. I'm just going to pull up to show you some of the differences between them. So we have a lot of databases that are hosted on something called the EBSCO platform. And a lot of times when we're coming from our bachelor's degree program, hopping to our master's, or maybe we had a little bit of an understanding of using academic databases, we may have said, oh, I know how to search EBSCO. I've searched on EBSCO plenty of times. EBSCO is not the actual database, it's a platform that hosts databases. So EBSCO hosts about 60 of them, and a lot of the databases that we subscribe to through UVA are actually on this platform. So say, for example, I'm gonna just take us to my access point. Again, my access point looks slightly different than your dashboard, but it does have similar content. If I log into what we call the Psych Info database versus the ERIC database, at first glance, I'm going to toggle between the two. First glance, we're like, oh, I don't think Ashley's even switching the tabs. What's the difference between these two? It is in the filters and options that you have that differs here. So it is different journals, different content that is featured. We'll notice here, because we have now hopped to a psychology database, which is just as good for education research, because education research is social science research, behavioral-based research. So say if we were looking at training teachers, right, or theories behind adult learning, PsycInfo is a great one for that too, because we're getting at the psychology behind that and the reasoning that may have good research and literature in that area. We can see PsycInfo offers searching by age group. So they didn't call it education level in here, they call it age group. So we can look all the way up to, preschool age, adolescence, adulthood, etc. We see methodology as a feature here too. So we can see it kind of dips into clinical information, more emphasis on empirical research as well too, different types of studies, different type of qualitative studies, whether we're doing field studies, interviewing, etc. So there are different options, different search options. Population group, not so much of an interest here to us, because in most cases for education research, we're studying humans. But say, for example, there are some studies with animals, we'd have the ability to distinguish that here, or even be able to go by gender in some case. Maybe if we were looking at the experiences of male teachers versus female teachers, we could see and populate that information for that as well. There are a few other databases that we subscribe to for education research. The interface will look a little different than this, but truth be told, the majority of education research databases tend to be on the EBSCO platform. So we're just going to see differences in setting up your searches. Really is the most kind of user interface there.
Perfect. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Of course. Any other questions? I'm seeing head shaking, so I think we're good. We're good to move on. Okay, yeah, see some nods. Great. Okay.
Also, I don't know why, but the camera has decided that it's going to be on me this entire time.
You're all good.
Those are eating cake and everybody else, nobody else has cake.
And I'm also beating yarn for Spirit Day tomorrow, so I mean,
Ah, fabulous. Well, citations are not as riveting as cake or yarn, but I'll ask y'all to bear with me as we get more into the nitty gritty, which I make a little more interactive for everybody. So what I want to ask you guys for a little bit of discussion before we get into our examples is, why do you think, or what have you been told about why we cite our sources? So for those who are joining us online, feel free to enter that into the chat box as well too. But for those in person, want to start off with some thoughts.
to demonstrate that you have gotten reliable information.
Great.
Yeah, give proper credit is what other Carly said. There's two of us. You don't look like you don't want to be a noodle head.
External links too, so then they can, because odds are you just put a small portion of their work, so if they're interested in someone, they can go and read the full article themselves.
Yes.
Great. Yes, all great reasoning on why we are citing our sources, right? We want to provide concrete information to be able to link that in the full picture. We want to make sure we absolutely are not citing. We don't want to be plagiarizing, for sure. That's a big one as well. Ooh, hold on, I lost you guys.
Yes, that's my
But a lot of times when we teach this content, we are doing the scare factor to you guys, right? Where it's like, please don't plagiarize your sources. Please don't plagiarize. We'll have to mark down, or in some cases with UVA takes it pretty extreme about plagiarizing. And I want to reframe that a little bit for you guys. So there are the positive reasoning for citing our sources too. Why do we cite? Citing is more than just avoiding plagiarism. So getting back to that linking part, right? So if you have friends visiting from out of town and you want to tell them about your favorite restaurant in town, I would think you would say something more beyond, oh, I like this burger place downtown. You'd probably give them the specifics, the name of the burger place, maybe linking them to their menu. Say, oh, I think this is food that you guys would really like too. Google mapping them into that location. Maybe sharing their social feeds, so Instagram, Twitter, what have you, linking in to see all that content because you really liked that place and you wanted to share that experience with someone. So think about that for your papers and for your literature reviews and for sharing content with your professors, with your peers too. Say, hey, I found this to be important. I think you might find it to be important too. So again, think of citing as referring your friend visiting from out of town to a restaurant you love. We want to have more positive connotations between that versus the scare factor that we often do when we teach citations. So I am going to give you guys some sample cases, some student writing samples. So this is based off of a lesson plan from Harvard that they do on citing that we really like to use here across UVA. So I am going to have you guys, again, online and in person, let's all quietly read this slide for a little bit. And if it, can y'all see that? Is it big enough too? Is everybody okay?
Yeah, good.
Okay, great, great. So let's take a couple minutes to read through this and say, does this look like they did this correctly with the student writing sample below? So we see that quote up on the top here. So quoting from that page and see, did they cite this then correctly? If this was a citation then needed.
Yeah, the title is a little off, I think.
Now, Ashley, did you want them, you said to go, are they supposed to go on and log into Zoom to do it, or, I'm sorry, say that one more time.
Oh, no, you don't have to. I'm just saying for folks tapping in online, feel free to enter in the chat box what you think, whether that was cited correctly or not. But no, they don't have to do it later. And we're focusing on that bottom. So the top part here with the source and with that quote, that's just the source information. And then we're seeing below if the student was then citing that correctly, or choose if they chose correctly to not in fact cite it. So would we have cited this, or is this correct as it is below?
I mean, I wouldn't have cited it because it's like basic knowledge.
Mm-hmm. Does everybody else feel the same way?
Sorry that interrupted you.
No, I was thinking the same. I could be wrong. But
Great. So yes, we are good. You guys are right. You nailed it. That's applying common knowledge, right? So if I go back to that, there are differences between domesticated and wild animals. That's considered this kind of basic knowledge that we wouldn't have to cite this source then, that folks who hadn't read this would also come to that same conclusion. So we are good there. So when it is applying common knowledge, that is totally fine to not have that formal citation there. Now, understanding common knowledge as it evolves too, we like to think of common knowledge as something that a larger population, not a subset of a population, but the majority of the population could understand. So I know for a lot of us in education programs too, we're like, oh, I know some of that teaching phrases, or I know this may popularly cited. I don't think I need to cite that. We do, because the general population would not know where that came from. So keeping that in mind, we're talking about common knowledge as the general population knowledge that pretty much everybody kind of knows based off of that instinct, not just our class setting, for example. So let's hop on to the next one. So again, it's that same source about animal domestication. So let's see here with student writing sample number 2, do we think we needed citations here? And how would we have cited it?
you would use.
Yeah, it's author and year, right? In APA. That would be, yeah.
I'm seeing some nods. Yeah, so if we hop on here, yes. So you do want to cite it. So you have two options for citing in APA. We have something called parenthetical citing. So that's where we have it at the end there with yes, author name, and then date. Or we have narrative, which means we're referencing the author then in the sentence, and then we just provide that citation there with the year that it was published. So why do we want to be citing that? Because if you notice here, we're mimicking some of that terminology. We're paraphrasing. We're not stating it exactly, but we are paraphrasing and building off of that information that is not common knowledge. So look, animals such as cows became smaller, while animals such as guinea pigs became larger. So not exactly word for word what they said, but pretty close. We're pretty close with that summarizing. So we absolutely want to make sure that we are citing that content appropriately. So for writing, a lot of students like to switch to what we call parenthetical citing. So we're providing that author and then date. You can switch back and forth between parenthetical and narrative. And the APA blog talks a lot about different writing styles and different citing styles. So it depends as you're writing through with the flow of your paper that you can switch it up with that citation style. So let's go to student writing sample number 3. So again, the same domestication book here that we're citing. So let's see, how should we have cited this with student writing sample number 3?
I'm gonna go with yeah. I don't have a good reason. It just seems like it was mimicking the, like the same one as last time, where it's a little bit too specialized knowledge. And, I would probably do the narrative.
I would do a narrative. I would say.
Narrative, that's not.
I would put like his last name and then beside of that, like I would put it, Diamond 1999's examination of the ways, blah, 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 blah. I would say.
Any other thoughts too?
I mean, I guess it depends on where it is in the paragraph. Like if you've previously referenced it and had like the name and the year, I guess you could just use the one that's just the year.
I guess it just is the flow of the paper, but yeah, I think that needs a second for sure.
So let's focus a little bit too here on the bottom. So we say it's similar. In this case, we want to notice that the language is very, very particular. So in this case, yes, we are absolutely citing it, but you're also quoting. So you want to add in those quotation marks and note the page number that you found the quote on. So if you notice here, you see, shows that cows, pigs, sheep became smaller under domestication, while guinea pigs became larger. That's basically this word for word that we're taking there. We want to show that we did in fact quote it. So we're noticing again in those two styles, whether it's parenthetical, we can see here, again, last name, date, P for page number, noting the page number, or if you're doing it in the narrative fashion, last name, date, stating it, providing those quotation marks, and then noting the page number. There are some cases nowadays with ebooks where students will say, hey, wait a minute, I'm not seeing a page number. It's just in my ebook. How in the world do I cite a direct quotation? And that can be in some cases where we are counting paragraphs in the chapter. So we would note then which paragraph it's coming from. This isn't all ebooks, but we have seen that come up with digital formats, sometimes where page numbers are not included. And if you are directly quoting something, you want to reference to where that direct quotation is placed in the article or in your book. The APA blog does a great job of telling you guys, okay, well, wait, is certain information missing? Here's what we recommend citing instead. And we have seen some cases coming up with that. So I like to bring that up to you guys because it does happen from time to time in today's digital environment. All right, so I'm going to pull up our next case, which is a sample case number 2. So we've switched text now that we're working with. So working now on something called Female Gothic, the monster's mother. So let's see with this student here, did this student cite that correctly or not? So take a couple minutes.
I'm gonna go with Carly. No,
There's not a year and there's not a page beside the 214.
yeah, or a,
Or,
yeah. Well, yeah.
hey, look at me.
Correct. So you guys got it. So we are missing that year then because we want to reference which year. Year is so important for, particularly again, like I mentioned, for education research. We really want to make sure we get the year right, particularly because authors publish a lot of works, right? So we want to make sure we're referencing to that as well, and to say, hey, this is either something we're referencing that's a little more historical or something that we're referencing that is more recent. Again, you're helping your fellow readers out by giving them that additional information. We also notice here, then we were missing that P. We were missing the P for the page number. So APA is pretty picky about that, having that in there. So make sure that content is included. So that gives us the last couple minutes here, because I don't want to take too much of your lecture time up here, but I'm going to go over very briefly some places to look on the APA blog to help you guys with your papers and with your assignments, and then we'll open it up just free for any last minute questions that may have come up. Oops, there we go. My slide deck was getting ahead of me. So I'm going to click in here. Oop, it took us to the wrong one. Hold on. So with the APA blog, this is the APA blog that we're on here now. I'm going to chat that to you guys. Again, the APA blog is linked on your nice library dashboard, so conveniently located in one place. With the APA blog, we have a great way of going in to say, okay, I can access the style and grammar guidelines. I want to see what the reference setup is. You can click on references. If we go in here, hold on, give me one. We go to reference examples. The APA blog nicely lists like all types that we would encounter normally for papers. It's so easy to go in, boom, book, ebook, different journal article references, magazine articles, fact sheets, reports by government agencies that's popularly used in education research too, or district reports, how to cite those, conference presentations, unpublished or informally published works. We see ERIC database references nicely linked in here too. When I click on the book and ebook one, for example, we can see here different ways of citing books, gives us examples here, gives us bulleted lists that gives us additional details, whether we're looking at a whole edited book, a republished book, book published with new forward. It really goes fully into detail for all different types of citations, and no ads on here. We're not bogged down by any ads or any nonsense here. We can go in and click and really get a good idea for what that content looks like. We can also go in, which I find super helpful. We can go into paper formatting, so we can see all about how to set up headings, page headers, how to do our line spacing, how to set up margins. Sample papers are in here too, so we can actually see sample student papers and papers that students have written then with professors' annotations on them. So it's really useful. I love this site so much. I use it all the time. And a little sneak peek here, your professors ask the same questions to me that you guys do too. Everybody's in the same boat, no matter what stage we're at in the academy. Citing just really freaks people out. So we always want to make sure that that's accurate. So please definitely check out the APA blog. In addition to your APA manual, it's really nice features here that we can see with templates, sample papers, reference examples, cheat sheets. I mean, it's really a great resource. So just to make you guys aware of that at the end here, I'm gonna